Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. It is Monday at 10:16. Pretty crappy weather. We had a lot of crappy weather this weekend. Saturday was actually really nice. We had a weird snowstorm on Saturday morning. It snowed for about most of the morning, and then it tapered off around noon or so. But it was kind of crazy. Then it got pretty nice out, and ever since then it's been super rainy and crappy. But hey, good day to watch movies, right? But isn't every day or any day a good day to watch movies? So yeah, I've been knee deep, and ever since it was probably about 2 weeks ago or so, I did a big show on my favorite boutique label, Mondo Macabra. Super fun. There was a lot of films in the collection, a lot of films in the show, a little bit of a longer show. And it was funny because after I did that show, I realized, I was in my room the day after, or the day of shooting that video and then putting it up, uploading it to the channel. I realized, oh shit, there was like a handful of other films that a handful of other Mondo Macabre films that I did not include. So, being the geek or nerd that I am, I decided to obviously watch them, and then I did some shows on them. And lately, ever since then, in the last couple of weeks, I have been totally immersed in the Mondo Macabre world all over again, and it's amazing. I'm revisiting all of those films again. I bought a couple of new ones about almost 2 weeks ago. I was in Bangor at the Bull Moose up there, which is pretty much my favorite one right now. And I went there and I got two brand new titles, and one I haven't watched yet, so that will be seen pretty soon, and I will, of course, do a big review on that. My favorite label. All of these movies I've seen before, you know, but a lot of them, from what I've been, when I went back to, I've been watching them again. Some of the films I've seen, a shit ton of times already, but there's quite a few movies in the collection that I've only seen once, and that's been really cool, really, really awesome. So, and I think these movies are just so damn good that they just need to be talked about. So there'll be more Mondo Macabre videos coming your way later this week. So yeah, stay tuned for that. So today's show is going to be another kind of sidebar or specialty show. I'm trying to always, every day, I'm always brainstorming as far as ideas and new things to talk about, obviously there's always movies to talk about. But for me, music, art, just in general, for me, it's all, completely interconnected. So I've been doing a lot more music shows lately, and that's been a lot of fun. I did a big show yesterday, which is a longer show. It's almost an hour, maybe 50 minutes, 45 minutes on Death Heaven, which is just an incredible rock band. And I love those guys to death. And they just put out a new album. I was gonna go up to Bull Moose yesterday, but I got pretty sidetracked. I was kind of didn't sleep so well the night before, and I ended up getting sidetracked, and I was on the phone for a while. So, and the next thing I knew, it was like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock or so, and it was pretty crappy weather, and so I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna chill out at home. So I didn't end up going, but I'm purposely staying away from listening. I've listened to maybe one or two songs, like one music video from the new album, from the new Death Heaven album. But other than that, which I thought was amazing, but I'm purposely staying away from it. I want to listen to the whole album in its completion, and because I think their approach to what they do is very conceptual, and I think that's one thing that's really missing today in, I think it's a generational thing, but the whole idea of like listening to an album in its entirety, I think it's kind of coming back in a weird way. I've seen some things about it and read some things about it, but the reason, when a band puts out an album, after say a record is all completed and then it gets mixed, and then the final stages of the mastering, all of those things are done. The other aspect of putting out a record is, and it can be a real kind of tough process, is track listing, what song goes next, and all of those things, because it really can set the mood, set the tone of what that experience is going to be like. So it's very important to try to like dial that in and to build that mood. And Deaf Heaven for me has a very cinematic quality to their music. And I think they're definitely one of my favorite rock bands, if not my favorite like new modern rock bands. And they incorporate the style of extreme metal that I love the most, black metal. They incorporate that with other styles, shoegaze. They have this very ethereal approach to their music, very melodic, but it's very musical. And they have this very cinematic quality. I feel like their movies, their songs, to me, make me think of, or put me in this mental place as if I'm watching a film. So, and I think because of how they blend multiple genres all at once, and they do it so well and effectively, I think that they are ahead of their time. I think they're incredibly innovative. And I think pound for pound, they're probably the best when it comes to that kind of rock or extreme metal. They're probably, the best thing around. So very, very excited. So I uploaded a big video about them, talked about their different albums, how I discovered them, and all these things. So check it out. And I, again, appreciate the new subscribers that have joined this weird little thing called Film Fanatic. I really appreciate it. Much respect to everyone. And people who have been commenting on videos, which has been really great. And I love interacting with other Film Fanatic maniacs out there and people that have cool perspectives. I've gotten turned on to a lot of cool films thanks to those exchanges. So very, very cool. So today's show, again, like I said in the top of the show, I'm always brainstorming about ideas and things to talk about because there's really an endless amount of topics. And one of the things I'm doing too on the side of that is my favorite thing to do are the interview segments. Interview segments for this channel they're a lot more involved. They're a little bit harder to put together, and I'm working on putting together a interview show for that's involving Mono Macabre, which I'm really, really excited about. Fingers crossed it's going to happen. So that will happen probably. That's going to probably happen, and I'll definitely know more information in the next few weeks. So stay tuned for that. But again, I'm always thinking of new ideas and things to talk about. So what today's show is going to be about, it's going to be, again, another show talking about my favorite band of all time. And yes, I call them a band, even though they are not in the traditional sense, and that is Autechre. I've been doing a lot of shows on Autechre, the English duo, like the, incredibly inspiring electronic artists that they are. I've done quite a few shows on them. I probably have done about 3 or 4 shows, maybe more. Did one big one where I talked about their overall kind of influence on me and all the inspiration they give me. And also, I've gotten into talking about specific albums. I've done some reviews of some of their albums and all of those things. So today's show is going to be about, and it's slightly funny. I thought it was kind of a funny story on me. Eventually, as of yesterday, I finally got tickets to see them in concert in Boston. Super super excited, and but it was a long and windy fucking road to get those tickets. So I figured, well, that's on my mind, so why not talk about it? It's tied into all of the other videos and about Autechre, so and it was worth. It's kind of a pain in the butt. There was a lot of emotions. There was a lot of ups and downs, as you could say, but totally worth it. And I'm beyond fucking excited. So, so yeah, really, really funny. So backing up or starting the beginning, I got a chance to see Autechre about shit. It was almost like 7 or 8 years ago now, probably like 7 years ago. My girlfriend at the time had got me or got us tickets to see Autechre in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, about 8 years ago, and it was a birthday present. And I've been listening to them for close to 20 years. Massive, massive fan. They are my favorite group, favorite band. I probably listen to them every day in some form or another. When it comes to electronic music, they are definitely the biggest influence as far as on my weird band Quantum. And just as a fan, I just love their music so much. There's so many. They have so many ingredients in their music, so many textures, so many moods. If I want to be kind of pumped up and get excited and be and wake up, basically, their music is perfect for that. If I want to kind of have this chill, kind of real relaxed, day or start to the day, their music is perfect for that. So their music encompasses so many different emotions and so many different ranges that I can listen to them any day because of that. It's not. They're so unpredictable. Each record is so different from what they do. They have a definitive style, like you can always tell it's them, but it's never predictable. It's never boring. It's never. It's just so multifaceted. So when my girlfriend at that time got me tickets, I was already, I had been a big fan of their music for quite a few years, even at that point, and I had played some of their music for her, and she really liked them too. She started to really like them a lot, so she surprised me with those tickets, and it was like, I've talked about seeing them live, and it was the best concert I've ever been to, and also getting the chance to not only meet Autechre, but to get a chance to spend a lot of time hanging out with them and just chilling with them, basically, for about 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours, and it was the greatest kind of musical experience I've ever had as far as going to music, and then getting a chance to hang with people that you respect so much, and that the other thing was that they were such cool guys and just totally down to earth. They were not rock stars in any way, shape, or form. So, and on the outside, I always equate it to because it's funny. Autechre is very well known in their little circle. They're on Warp Records, of course, which is a major label. Aphex Twin. They put out the first Thundercat album, the first one or two Flying Lotus albums. Square Pusher is also on that label. Just an incredible label, and all of their records, they've been on Warp Records since their inception, since like the late '90s, basically. Boards of Canada. So they were, kind of since the label started, they were like one of the first groups to be on there, and I've been ever since. And so, like in the electronic world and all, and that kind of thing, like they are, regarded as like, the greats. And so, but outside of that, they're not like they're super. It's funny. They're like super well known, super respected, super popular. But then outside of that kind of immediate world, nobody really knows who they are. So it's interesting. Probably the most well known artists to come out of Warp Records, I'd say, is Aphex Twin and then Thundercat. They kind of broke a little bit more into the commercial realm as far as popularity. When you say electronic music, pretty much everybody and their grandmother knows who has heard Dead Mouse. And granted, that's like more kind of dubstep house kind of stuff. But everybody and their grandmother knows who that artist is. Who I do like some of his stuff quite a bit. But Autechre, it's kind of a different thing. It's a little bit more complicated. So anyway, it was announced like probably um, I got wind that that Autechre had announced that they were going on tour about a month, probably about a month ago. And it was just a regular day. I was occasionally, pretty sporadically, I look up to see if there's any new news about them. They've been releasing a lot of live albums. The summer before last, they toured like crazy in Europe. They never came to the States. The last time they came to the States was when I saw them. And again, that was probably about 7 or 8 years ago. So, and before that, it had been about 8 years. So they don't do a normal touring cycle. They tour like crazy in Europe at times. But when they come to the States, it's there can be a decade in between. It's kind of crazy. So about 2 years ago, or about maybe a year ago, I think they did a bunch of touring and they recorded all of their shows. And in December, they released tons of all of these new albums that are essentially these live shows that they played throughout Europe. They released all these albums in one giant box set, and I've been listening to that material a lot lately, and it's just incredible. And so they are so prolific. Like the amount of music that they record and put out is just amazing. So they've been taking these live cuts and basically packaging these recordings as like official kind of studio albums, which I think is a really cool and interesting idea. That I don't know of any other groups that really do that or that put out that much music. So and I think it was the summer before last they did a massive tour, and so they put out all those recordings in December. And then about a month ago, I was just online checking out any news or updates about what they've been doing. Maybe some more gigs or things like that. And it was announced that Autechre was doing another uh, short tour in Europe, and they were playing like 5 or 6 shows in a few different countries. And I was like, oh, cool, that's awesome. Uh, and my first thought was, wow, that would be pretty cool to maybe go to Europe and see them. That was my first thought. And then like a week later or so after that, it was announced that this little tour that they were doing, which was like I think maybe 3 or 4 shows throughout Europe, it was announced they announced that they were expanding this tour and it was going to be this really big tour, and that they were actually coming to the States as well. And I was like, holy shit. And I looked at all the dates, and one of the dates was back at the same venue, Three Art Space, where I saw them. And I was like, oh fuck. And they had, maybe 20 or 30 other dates, and they were doing a whole kind of North American trek plus a whole entire European trek. And suddenly they were going on this huge tour, basically like a world tour. And I was like, wow, like that's crazy. They haven't done a massive, global kind of tour like that in years. So that was like really, really exciting. And I was just like, holy shit, this is crazy. So, and at that time when I came across this, I was about to go on tour with a brand new band, Osmia, and about 2 days or so before I left, I I messaged a couple of friends about going to see Autechre and going to go trying to get tickets, seeing if they were interested in going to see them at Three Art Space, the venue I saw them at. And Three Art Space is just an amazing venue. It's probably it was the best. Not only was that the best concert I ever went to, but it was the best venue I ever went to. And the funny thing about that venue is it's tiny. It only holds 200 people, and it's kind of crazy. I mean, it's as intimate as you can get. I mean, outside of going to a house party, like it's kind of crazy. But it's a beautiful, beautiful layout. It's a giant art gallery and an art space, and then there's like a food or a restaurant inside. Also, it's a whole complex, and it's gorgeous. And so I was I talked to a couple of friends, and then they were very very excited about it as well. They're all huge. Two buddies of mine, massive Autechre fans, and so got them on board to do it. And then I left to go on tour after that was arranged. And this was all in the span of like, you know, just a couple of days, like maybe 3 days tops. So then I left on tour, and I had talked to my friend, my buddy who was one of my buddies who was going to go. I said, hey, would you mind, because I'm going to be kind of, stuck in a car and driving, and I'm going to be out of town. Would you mind, ordering the tickets? And he's like, yeah, I'll get the tickets and all those things. So I was like, great. So then I got to, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to do it. He was busy at work when I messaged him, but he said he was going to do it that night or early the next day. So I was like, awesome. So then I left to go on this tour, and we played a show. The second show of the tour was we were in Boston, and then we were staying that night on down also in Boston. About 5 or 10 minutes later, about 5 or 10 minutes. The place that we stayed at was about 5 or 10 minutes away from the venue, or maybe 15. And we stayed. We got to this to the friend, one of the guys in the band, in Osmia's friend, was really awesome and put us up in his really sweet apartment that he had. It's like a house apartment, kind of a complex, beautiful space. So that night after the show, we went there and hung out, and then eventually crashed out and slept, and then got up the next day, and and then we were having coffee and breakfast and stuff. And the guy who owned the house that we were staying, he is like so into music. Like this guy, he's also like a photojournalist, and he shoots. He does a lot of photography for a lot of bands, and also national bands, like crazy stuff. And he travels a lot for work. Real cool guy, real interesting guy. But we had gotten up in the morning, and we were just kind of chatting and whatnot. And we were talking about music, and then talking about concerts. And in the middle of the conversation, he brought up Autechre. And he's like, he had said that he was a fan. He loved their music. But then he said, within 2 seconds, he's like, yeah, I tried to get tickets to see them at Three Art Space, but it sold out in like 4 hours. And I was like, fuck. And at that point, it had only been a day or two since we made a definite plan to get the tickets. But evidently, he wasn't able to do it in time, and I did not see that coming, like for it to sell out that quick. But granted, this venue, Three Art Space, is a tiny venue, and it only holds 200 people. So I knew I knew we had to get on it, but we missed the boat. And when this guy said that it was sold out, and I was just like, oh shit, god damn, that is a bummer. So so then I think it was the next day or later that night, I messaged my friend Mike, who was gonna get the tickets, and I was like, hey dude, I just got wind and I heard, and I looked it up on my own to make sure, but I I saw, yeah, it's a no go. We got, the tickets are sold out for that show. And I was like super bummed. So I was pretty bummed out by that, and I was like, oh, okay, that blows. And the funny thing is the show that got sold out isn't until like October 29th. Basically, it's on Halloween, so it's like a long time away. And I was like, oh man, totally sold out. And when I saw them originally at Three Art Space, that show was sold out as well. But again, granted, it's only 200. It's only a 200 capacity, so it doesn't take a lot. A lot, but it was sold out for that show as well. So super bummed. And I think the next day I talked to Mike again, or maybe that night, telling him that I just heard, and I looked it up, confirmed it on my own, that the show was canceled. And I was like, oh man, this blows. So a day went by or two, and they and I saw on Autechre's website that they had added a few more dates to the show, to their tour, and they added a couple of more shows in the New England area. So I was like, oh wow, cool. So then I looked it up again, and I saw that they were playing in Boston a few days before the show that got sold out, and so then I reached out again to my friend Mike, and I came across this one other show that was kind of added to the tour down in Boston at a venue that I had never been to, and I can't remember the name of it. But I was like, oh, okay, maybe there's hope. Maybe there's fucking hope. So then I said, well, hey, what about this? What about if we try maybe to get tickets to this show? And he's like, okay, let's try it. Let's try this again. So then and then I reached out to my other friend, my friend Sean, to see if he was into it, but then I didn't hear back from him. So I was like, let's just try to do this anyway. And so that was a plan. That was the next plan of attack. So then he tried, and at that point I was a little bit. I had a lot of anxiety that that was going to get sold out too. The other dates, these other shows, and this one date that I came across was at a bigger venue. So I thought maybe there's a little more hope. It was at a larger venue that like had maybe 1,000 or 100, 600 capacity or something like that. It was a much bigger venue, so I was like, okay, maybe we'll do that. Maybe that will work. And my friend Mike said, yeah, I'll take care of it. And again, we were kind of in the middle of the tour, so I was away and out of town and didn't have a lot of time to, I guess, do it.
Powering off.
So he said, okay, that's the next plan. We'll do that. So then he said, yeah, I'll get on it and I'll take care of it tomorrow. And this was like on a Wednesday or something, and it was like Thursday. And it was only a few days after, you know, when I saw this date that it had only been announced like maybe 2 or 3 days. And I figure, okay, that's enough time. We should be probably good to get these tickets, and they should be available. So then my friend Mike said he was going to take care of it. And then a day went by, two days went by, 3 days went by. And at that point, and I was, still busy with the tour and everything, and hadn't heard anything yet from Mike, and I was like, okay, I started getting a little nervous at that point. So then I reached out to him, and I didn't want to be like a pushy, asshole about it. So I was like, I waited about 3 days, and then I reached out to him again. I was like, "Hey, man, did you, were you able to get the tickets or any? Did you get any news or anything?" And I didn't hear back from him. So then about 4 days went by, and at that point, I'm like, "Oh man, I this isn't looking really good." And then he got back to me after about 5 days, and I was still out of town for another 3 or 4 days at that point. So I was, he got back to me finally after about 5 days, and he said that he had all these problems logging onto the website and getting the tickets, and he said it was a wicked pain in the ass for some reason. And he said that he tried and tried and tried, and then he put it off another day or two, and then tried again to get tickets. And the initial tickets were more expensive. The show was at that point just about sold out, but there were tickets available in the kind of the back area. But he said they were like, really expensive, and they kept bumping him back. And he was like, I don't know if I want to do this and spend this amount of money on the tickets. And then, so I was like, okay, um, that's a bummer. I understand. But then the next day I heard that show sold out as well. So I was like, oh man. So it was this total like fiasco. So at that point I was like, I was super bummed, super bummed. And then came back. We eventually came back from tour, and we've been back for about 2 weeks or so now. and so I came to terms with the fact that I wasn't going to go see Autechre, and I was super bummed, and all those things. But then I was like, well, at least I got a chance to see them that one time, and it was the greatest experience ever. So then I was, kind of bummed out by that, obviously, and all those things. And then fast forward, 2 weeks later, here we are, just like, and then today is Monday, and just about, I think it was Friday night. I was home, or I don't know where. I think I was home, and I think it was kind of late, and I just happened to look again at their tour dates and seeing if there was, other dates announced or other things or blah blah blah. And I saw a some new news about how virtually every show of this tour has sold the fuck out. And I was just like, wow, that's amazing. Part of me was like, I had mixed emotions around it because I was like, yes, this is my favorite band of all time. I'm super excited that they're selling out all of these shows, and that's fucking awesome. But then I was like, but I'm not going to get a chance to see them, and But then I was like, well, I got a chance to see them that one time, and it was the greatest experience. And but I was bummed, and but I saw, but yeah, I was really excited that they were selling out all of these shows, and all of the dates were, I looked it up online further, and all of the dates that they listed, the American dates and everywhere, were virtually all sold out. But in the same article, they were saying, and I should say, and this was like Friday, and today's Monday. And then Saturday, I looked it up again, and I looked them up again, and I came across all this updated information on the tour. And they said, Autechre had said in this press release through Warp Records that because the tour, all of these dates have sold out, they added these other dates. And one show in particular, they had a show, the date that we originally tried to get in Boston, because the tickets sold out for that, what they did was they moved that show to a bigger venue, the Paradise in Boston, which is actually a really big venue and a really, real popular venue in Boston. and it's a really beautiful venue. I think I was there a long time ago, but it's a real big, major venue in Boston. So because all these tickets were selling out, what they did was they upgraded and they decided to change the venue. So suddenly, so they moved the show to the Paradise, and suddenly there was a whole bunch of new tickets available. So I was like, oh fuck. So then yesterday I talked to a friend. Like later that night, I talked to a friend that same night and said, hey, what do you think of this? There is a chance we could go see them if I get on it. So then, and they were on board. And then so I looked it up online and it wasn't sold out. So then yesterday, it took me a while. It was a little bit, I'm kind of an idiot when it comes to technology and ordering tickets online, especially on my phone. So then I got online and it took me about an hour to figure it out, to get it all situated. And I am so happy and fucking excited beyond belief to announce that I got tickets to see Autechre. And the show, again, isn't until like October 29th or 28th. It's on a Monday, too. And I was just like, fuck yes, praise baby Jesus. And so there's a happy ending to this whole long story. So as of yesterday, around 4:30, 5 o'clock, I was able to get tickets to see them, and I'm super fucking excited. And man, it was a long road to getting these tickets, and and the tickets were a little bit expensive, but the tickets were $80 a person. But I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna buy them, and it's totally gonna be worth it. So I went ahead and bought the tickets, and I'm fucking super pumped. And yeah, what a long and emotional road. What an emotional roller coaster, but it had a happy ending. So thanks again, and we will see you next time. Peace.